Hey, we're live on this Thursday evening. Hello, hello. This is the Daily Drawing Club from Draw or Die Company, the raddest drawing club on the planet. If you're watching in a replay, make sure you drop a comment. If you're a new viewer, please subscribe, say hi. And tonight, we're going to do art question of the day is how to overcome imposter syndrome. And are you good enough? Is your art good enough? And then the art tip exercise, we're going to draw some birds today. So how this works is there's a daily drawing challenge. I'm going to give some art tips and advice, I guess, just by the way that I draw. There's no right or wrong way to do art, really. I'll be answering questions live in the chat. And then the drawing prompt, which is going to be, I'm going to reveal it right now. I'm just going to get right into it. Birds of a feather. So that's the narrative prompt. I'm going to have a little fun with this. I'm going to use my imagination. I'm not just going to draw a bunch of birds. I'm going to try to do something a little creative. Hey, Dan, Steph, Youre Hotel, Lola, live in the chat there. Thanks for joining tonight. Hope you guys are all doing well. There's Tweeter. Good evening. Let's see here. Got my other screen up. So birds of a feather is the drawing prompt for tonight. Hey, Larry, DJ, EG, Will Draws. What's up? How's it going? The question of the day was how to overcome imposter syndrome, which kind of came in the way of a conversation about how do you get out there. And boy, I can dive pretty deep into that one. So we'll talk about that. And how do you know when your art is good enough? Like, I get asked this a lot. Like, how do I know when my art is good enough? So we'll talk about that and birds. So birds. So first I'm going to start off by, some of the artists in the group, in the club, you probably already know, but drawing birds, turn down this loopy music just a little bit. Turn it down a little bit. So if I'm going to start off with birds, for people out there that are just starting art, I'm going to show you just the way that I think of it. And again, we'll think a little simple here before I start my drawing prompt. When I think of birds, let me go to my pencil. Great. That's good. I'm going to think of shapes like that. You can draw that, right? So if you can't draw that, like the letter D on the side, kind of tilted, but I'm thinking of shapes like this, right? Fat bird, tall bird, long bird. I'm just constantly thinking of things like this. I like birds, so it's easy to think of. But this is just the basic cartooning shapes. We can talk a little bit more about, realistic parts of birds, cartoony parts of birds. But this is just to start you off if you're new to drawing, or maybe you're an artist that's struggling with birds. So from here, this is probably the beak. Bird legs kind of point away from, it's like one of the tricks, right? Like the bird legs kind of point away from the direction that the tail's going. So you got your tail here, of course your wing. So it's very simple shapes, and then you got your little eye here. Right. This is a very simplified bird. And then you can get, fancier with it. You could get, depending on that, you could put the beak up there, erase that. You can have some fun. They all follow kind of the same pattern. Their legs kind of come off like that. There's different types of claws, of course. Cartoon birds are very easy to draw like that. The cone head. But that's just something fun that you can draw and doodle all over the place, like a little tiny bird, So that's kind of how I first approach birds. But if we're going to get into a little bit of, you know, I always like cute little birds, like the little tiny dudes, like finches or something like that, with like the little tiny tails, like so. Smaller wings and kind of a fatter body. Maybe they've got like a little bit of a breast thing, and like their heads barely leave their body shape. Then they've got the little. Of course, the best thing you could do is look at birds. These are just mind birds. So the first thing I do is I try and challenge myself to memorize. Maybe they have like even longer legs and like, you know, even like bigger feet. Right. And then of course, you know, drawing a bird sitting there, it's pretty easy. Give them a tree. Let's give these birds some tree branches to stand on. Because, you know, you can't just have birds flying or just hovering there. A tree branch for that bird. And he's like, thanks. And again, this is part of just drawing every day. If I was exercising in a sketchbook, I would be doing exercises like this, just drawing tons and tons of birds over and over and over and over again. Now, if we're going to draw, again, I'll just finish up these little shapes here just to kind of show you what I might do. Just then add a little tail. Right? Just real simple shapes. This one might look like a little bit different. Like maybe it's like got a long, just going with the shape of the head here. Maybe he's got a longer beak. Right. And then again, you got that feet going this way. A lot of people will just like draw straight down feet. That's not accurate. That little gesture of a bird, you can just knock those out and even just darken this up, and then you got like a, you know, a raven kind of thing going on there, right? Something, crow. And then of course you want your birds flying. So that's kind of a little that's, you know, a little different if you're thinking about wing shapes and you want to, you know, the way that I might approach that too is just, again, when you think of how you draw when you're a kid, people go like, oh, look, there's birds. Those simple shapes. It's not far off from that specific shape, right? But you know, you might get a little crazy with it, with those swooping lines like that, and then kind of remember that the bird's head's kind of coming down. And this is just a, you know, a mind bird. Just how I remember drawing the basic shapes of birds. And I'm not going to get too far into details, but you know, you got your wings that have like one layer of bone, and then you'd have the first layer of feathers like here, right? And then you got the second bigger feathers kind of coming out, and then it's going to attach. That's kind of like all bird wings, sort of, to some extent. And also birds are just kind of fun to draw, you know. And over at VFriends, you know, I'm drawing like the cartoon birds. So you got like a parrot. It's kind of like they got a beak like that. And then their eyes are, you know, down real low. You can't see the other eye. Maybe they're talking. Whatever. Right. Very similar, like the Pittsburgh parrot or the parrot from Aladdin. You know what I mean? Birds are pretty fascinating to think about and draw. They're really fun to draw. A bunch of M's. Right, there we go. M's. Got McDonald's bird. There. Never mind that. Yeah, so that's in general just a quick take on bird tips. I think that's probably the biggest tip that I have is that action of make sure that you've got the body and then you point the feet that way. It just automatically starts to look like a bird over and over and over again if you do it this way. Right? Bat bird, chicken, whatever. Got a little, whatever, rooster. Try to learn those basic, pretty bad, but never mind that. Try to learn that basic shapes. Always think just basics. So like those of you out there that are like, I can't draw and I'm just checking this out. You can draw that. Just draw that a million times and then look at real birds and you're good to go. That's my style of drawing tutorial for you. That's as good as it's going to get. Now, for my birds of a feather, I have another idea, and so this is me using my imagination, and I'm thinking like a secret agent bird. I always like that idea of like robot birds or birds aren't real. Alicia likes that. Allie likes that. And then we're going to have like it looks like a normal bird up close. Or far away, it looks like a normal bird I need. And then the closer you get, it's going to have like a crazy mechanical eye of some kind. Do that. Oops. Nope. That kind of works, whatever. I want to just let's put like a backpack on him. Pouch. It's got a little symbol. Almost like a shield thing. Right, I'm just gonna drop that out and ink that real quick. Just kind of using my, again, activate, use your imagination. This is usually something I would do in the morning before work. That's what I suggest to do. Our daily drawing prompts come out 5 a.m. every morning. And they're just something like that. I don't think I've done birds of a feather before. Maybe I have. Sounds familiar. I just kind of grabbed it out of the ether tonight. And then maybe I'll just, I still have like 18 minutes left on this portion of the drawing. But let's talk a little bit about, and maybe in the chat, if you guys want to chat a little bit about overcoming imposter syndrome. That's a two-part thing. Are you good enough? Overcoming imposter syndrome. I'm going to tell you right now that even the top people that I've talked to, like top names, myself too, I'm not a top name, but like, even though I seem very confident, like even going to that Billy Ireland museum over the weekend and seeing those, again, if you didn't check those out, I got to see like the original art from Peanuts and what else? Gordo and what else? Where am I at here? And I got to see like the Terry and the Pirates, pretty classic page there. And Alicia will tell you, like, I was really like, man, I suck. Walking out of there was very like, it was inspiring, but it was also like, man, I can't believe anyone's letting me draw. Right. And so I've gotten used to, you hear that voice no matter what level you're at in life. And I think what you have to do is, and what I do is, I just start to question it. I question it back. So when you hear that voice say like, oh my God, I can't show my art, or it's not good enough. So this connects a lot to the, is your art good enough? I would say that the thing that I do, and I've talked about this in the newsletter once, I think it's just an activity. No one told me to do this. I just started like talking to myself, right? So when I hear that little voice inside that says, I'm not good enough, or people are going to think I suck, I ask that voice, well, what about my art don't I like? And then they'll say, well, you suck at drawing birds. Your birds look like crap. And so then I'll be like, okay, so I need to work on birds. So I like take it as a directive of like, what do I need to work on? Composition, or what was it about seeing those originals so big that made me intimidated? Like if someone else saw my artwork, they were going to think that I was, an imposter. Oh my God, you let this guy in. And this is not anything new. There's musicians that feel this way that I know, and there's actors that I know that feel this way. It's such a common, stupid human thing that we all do. And I think you just have to kind of listen for it. And when you start to hear it, I started to hear it the other day, you just have to kind of block it out and say, shut up. And then the voice kind of goes away. Like it really does. I got away from the idea of this being like a robotic bird, but I'm going to just go ahead and play with this a little bit while I'm drawing. Got some stuff from the chat here. Steph says she tries to post when I feel it's not my best. I find I get better responses on the stuff that I don't love. That's kind of something that universally happens. Even with the comic strips that I'm doing for VFriends, like I might not feel one. Actually, the other day I was working on a strip, and I wasn't happy with it. Myself, I wasn't happy with it, and it ended up being the best performing post they've had in 2 years, like for the entire brand. It was like the creator comic post where the guy's like filming on the street. I just wasn't happy with it for some reason. I just didn't like, I was noodling with it too long, and the coloring, and I just was overthinking it. So I think like that can kind of happen over time, but it is interesting. Like if there's a signal of like, oh, I'm not really liking this, you should force yourself to put it out there and ship it. Because like Steph said, usually the things that you think you don't like are the things that actually resonate for some reason. Why is that? I can't answer why we do that. It's so stupid. So stupid. Lola said there is only one you, and you have something to offer simply for the fact in your perspective or ideas. Yeah, I was listening to a podcast earlier today, and I can't remember the fella's name off the top of my head. Jacob something or other. He's a musician, really famous musician guy, won a bunch of Grammys. I never would have heard of him, but he was talking about how there's no right or wrong way to do anything, and how he was kind of going at Rick Rubin, the music producer that wrote a really fantastic book By the way, this book, if you don't have it, The Creative Act, A Way of Being, it's a very, like, it seems like it's, I spilled coffee all over it. There's just like, it's very short. There's like short passages. I highlighted some stuff. What did I highlight there? I highlighted in the culture, there's always a dialogue between the past, present, and future, even when it's not clear what the influence is. So this is, I like this book, but look, I highlight things like rules direct us to average behaviors. So this is a great book. But the guy on the podcast was kind of saying, like, Rick Rubin, famous music producer, words, was kind of off base. Like, in there, he says a few things where he's like, people are reading that book that maybe aren't creative, and they're like taking it as gospel. Like, he's at the top of a mountain saying, like, this is how creativity works. And then meanwhile, real artists are reading that, like this guy, and they're saying, like, no, like, you each have a unique voice, just like Lola said there in the chat. And how I draw a bird might not be how you draw a bird, right? But it's, I mean, I've done my job. So getting back to the fact of, is your art good enough? So many cartoonists and artists that I know are afraid, but really it comes down to the core of, if you're a visual artist and you're trying to convey what this is, I've done my job as an artist, because you can tell that that's a funky chicken, or, you know, that's some, you know, those are birds. Even if it was stick figures, I'm communicating visually to tell you the story that that's a bird doing something, saying thanks, or looking derpy, or, you know, that's a wing, right? And none of these things are true. This is pixels on a computer device. I'm conveying it magically, right? I'm getting the point across enough. So are you good enough to do that? Yes. Most of the artists that I talk to, even those that ask that question, you're definitely good enough. You're just afraid of failing in front of people, right? And the secret there is that nobody really cares. Nobody really cares. Everybody's going about their business, doing their thing. I'm gonna go ahead and work on this eye, because I really had an idea for this eye here. I wanted it to be more like, a cool cybernetic looking eye or something like that. In your imagination, no one can tell you what's right or wrong. If it feels right to you, do it. You might not ever have to show it to anybody either, but maybe there's like a little tiny square thing there. From a distance, it just looks like a regular bird with a backpack, and then when you zoom in, it's up to no good. Maybe it's got a little antenna here. Right. You can just start really noodling with that. And then maybe he's got like a pattern on his fur, on his feathers. It's kind of like different than the other, like a flame looking pattern or something. Yeah. Don't forget that drawing's supposed to be fun. Too many people put too much pressure on themselves as far as like, how many followers do you have, and how much content are you putting out, and are you making any money, and all that jazz. You gotta don't forget to have fun and explore and paint, and, you know, do something different. We got to give this guy a little branch to sit on as well. like he's kind of outside your house or something like that. That's easy enough. Watching you in your house. I should draw Allie in this window here. This bird is watching her not come on the streams with us. She's very busy though. She's cooking birds right now or doing something. Chicken. Oh, poor Allie. Yeah. Boy, do I hear that a lot. And I can just repeat it over and over again. That, your art is definitely good enough. Even if it's stick figures, here I am just kind of doodling, this bird outside of a window here. Gives you a chance to practice textures and things like that. I know. We miss Allie. I know. Got to find a format where she can come on and talk because she just feels kind of like I got nothing to say and I don't draw, and she could just laugh it up. So I got to come up with a different format for her to come on soon. She's in a different routine right now. Let's see. She said give her a little bit of time. She's been going to the gym and getting a different routine going for herself, and yeah, I'm sure she'll be tempted to be back on soon. I'm just going to kind of go around here and appreciate you guys tuning in and watching, sharing the streams. I think next week probably go back to the 7 a.m. Drawing time, 7 a.m. in the morning. Sorry to the nighttime folks. So enjoy these nighttime streams for now. But we're actually, Allie was saying maybe the weekend stream should be more in the evening, like we talked about originally. It's just a matter of scheduling and stuff like that. I'm going live a lot. I'm going live on the VFriends channels too. I was live 2.5 hours this morning. Let me just go to that schedule real quick, just so you guys can see the whole schedule for VFriends. So I'm drawing comics and coffee on Friday, 8:30 a.m. So probably a couple hours there. So check that out. If you like comics, want to watch me draw comics, then I'm there doing that. And I thought I was looking back to the actual full schedule. So this week we're continuing with the 8 p.m. streams. Tomorrow night, Friday night, and then Saturday at noon. And then I'm still debating. So you can talk me out of it. You can say man, really, I want to come on the. I want you to stay on the nighttime streams, but I feel like I felt myself itching to be on this morning. And I was stopping myself because I had to go to an 8:30 stream. But I personally, I prefer the 7 a.m. stream, even though there's less, steps there and a couple other people are there. But VFriends is on YouTube and TikTok. So the TikTok live that I do is this side of the camera. It's just this portion of the iPad in hands, and then the YouTube version that broadcasts out on the VFriends channels is this same kind of setup, so we can switch back and forth, and I'll just kind of go to that. Well, I talked a lot today on the new coffee and comics format is pretty much just me working on the comic strip that I'm working on, and people were coming in. We had 700 people watching live this morning, which was like a record. People like to listen on their getting ready for work or procrastinating before they get into their work day, and talking about life and just kind of doing stream of consciousness as I'm working on the strip. So today we talked a lot about losing. Like that was the topic about like sometimes in life, the things that you perceive as failures. I actually talked a lot about the my journey with like Hero by Night and all that stuff in like 2006, and how that was sort of like this awesome trajectory for my career, and then but in my personal life, like my family didn't really, the adults in my family didn't really, they were just like waiting for it to collapse. There was never any like joy or being happy for me. And then my friends, my quote friends in my life, only wanted to be my friends because they got work, it seemed. And then when all of that dried up, all those friends went away, and it just sucked. So I perceived it as like a major failure. But now, as in many years later, I'm so glad that happened, because I learned quite a bit there in those periods. So we talk a lot about that in those types of comics, as far as like you have to lose. And that comic is about 8th place trophies, like so many 8th place, participation trophies. And you're teaching kids, you're teaching yourself to like everybody's safe and everybody's equal and all that. And then the real world is like going to gobble you up if you're not prepared for it. There's so many kids coming out of college. Let's just talk about artists. There's so many artists that are coming out of school thinking they have their degree and whatnot. It's going to allow them to just magically get work, and then boom, they just can't find anything, and it's so depressing. That's kind of what we talked about in the last art stream, was college and whatnot, if that was worth it. 5 seconds till the ding goes off for the half an hour alarm. There we go. That's the 30-minute mark. Yeah, so today we talked a little bit about how to overcome imposter syndrome. I think we kind of covered that. I mean, again, just don't listen to that voice, inside. I know it's tough sometimes, but be self-aware when it's happening. Your art is good enough. If you can draw that, you can draw a few lines and spell, you can kind of start to, work on things like this. The prompt of the day was birds of a feather. I started working on this. I was actually starting to think that like maybe feather stood for something, like my science fiction brain. Like I don't know what it would stand for, guys, but that's a long acronym. But like these birds are like technologically advanced. I don't know. My imagination was starting to kind of kick in there, which is always fun. He's got a little backpack on the back, a little cylinder of some kind. Don't know what that is. Doesn't really matter. Yeah, this is just fun practice. And I think for those that say that they don't have time, I've only been on here for half an hour. On those days when I don't have time, I might just throw 10 minutes in a sketch and explore with like some inks, or even not on digital, like just throw out the field notes or sketchbook. Just explore with black spaces like that, hit a little lines. But that's my number one unlock for birds, I gotta tell you, is that feet positioning. You start doing that, and then anything looks like a bird for some reason. It's just the magic of that foot angle is what does it. Going faster here. It's been a good routine to do these streams live and learn from it a little bit, see what people are liking. I can see when people kind of rewind and watch different tips and things. And if you're liking these streams, make sure you comment. I know you guys are in the chat. Thank you. If you're watching it on replay, make sure you comment. And I think I'm going to call that a stream, guys. So thanks for watching. We'll see you back tomorrow, 8 p.m. And that's the end of the stream. Thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate you. Hopefully we'll have some other different news soon to talk about. But other than that, it's always good to sit and draw with you for a little bit. And I'm off to actually work on some more comic strip stuff. So I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.